things first, it's the DU General, Money B. I'ma put you up on the schedule, 6 to 9, 8 weekdays, not doing several. Let's go. We got a lot to talk about, so much to pedal through. Unapologetically progressive. Tune to KBLA 1580 to get the mess. We're your ancestors' favorite radio station. First black on talk radio, left side of the nation. Me and Dominique DiPrima go way back. Tag Smiley making sure the station stays black. Discussing all the issues in our community. We're hosted black and brown and others find unity. So let's talk about it. Maybe we can improve it. Digital underground, always down with the movement. So we tune in. The first things first with the queen of black talk radio, Dominique DiPrima. Go sis. First things first.
KBLA Talk 1580. Good morning. Happy Friday. God bless. I'm Dominique DiPrima. The show is called First Things First. And my first thing today and every day, giving thanks, giving praises, and asking for blessings from the Most High. Asking for the blessings of the ancestors and the elders. And let's go, let's go, let's go. It's a Freedman Friday. Every Friday around here on my show, it's Freedman Friday. That means we focus on reparations in our second hour, a comprehensive conversation meant to get us up to speed on all of the latest progress, setbacks, ideas, different schools of thought. It's amazing the things that are happening in this country. Even under the current administration, they continue to happen, to percolate, to move in the space of reparations, restitution, and the debt that is owed to Black America. So we'll do that hour 2. Hour 3, we do a deep dive typically, but today the deep dive is wide open phones, amnesty for those, we typically say you could call once a week. We got amnesty this week in the 8 o'clock hour. So if you got something to say, and particularly those that do tune in for the Freedman Friday, I like to continue the conversation that we started last week around these two dueling bills in California. Very interesting stuff strategically. But also we'll be joined by Dr. Allison Rose Jefferson in hour 2, who is an historian and one of the intellectual forces behind the Bruce's Beach victory. So truly looking forward to the conversation with Dr. Rose Jefferson. Right now, though, it's every other Friday. You know what that means. Every other Friday, we check in with the president of ES Advisors. It's a consultancy firm, been around for quite some time. He's also a KBLA official contributor. Sometimes I even talk him into sitting in for me when I get those rare vacations. Ed Sanders, good morning.
Dominique, good morning. How are you?
I'm blessed. How are you? Look, I'm happy. I'm happy to see the weekend coming. I'm not going to lie. I think Miles is too.
I am too. This has been a wild week on just sort of the political, emotional side, just trying to keep up with everything. But yeah.
And it's not because I don't love you, KBLA delegation. It's just that a sister needs some sleep right about now.
Oh, that's right. I stayed up late to watch the Laker game last night on replay. Well worth it.
I was going to say,
I'm tired.
Right now, you and Miles are on your Laker high, right? Little Laker winning streak high. Is that what's happening?
Well, it's great when you're watching it, I tell you. But if you watch it till 2 in the morning, like I did, and then get up, now I got like that Super Bowl hangover.
Yeah, well, I'm glad that you're here, hangover or not, and I'm glad to see the Lakers doing well. Maybe that will inspire me to get off of my butt and start watching. I shouldn't say off my butt because it's not like I'm not doing something else. But anyway, I was up late last night too because I had the great fortune to be invited to moderate a panel for this film called Respect My Crown. It's a documentary. It's actually making the rounds in the festival circuit, and if you get a chance to see it, you definitely should. This is presented by the Hammer Museum, which is in Westwood. If you haven't been there, the Hammer Museum right now has an exhibit on Alice Coltrane. Their admission there is always free, so that's really it's really a great experience. But this film is focused on Black women in politics in California, the history, the rise of Black women in politics in California. Wanted to congratulate the director of the film, the producer of the film. Black Women's Collective played a role in that. So also, to the Hammer Museum, really, really, and everyone who came out on a Thursday night, because it was a nice crowd filled with actually dignitaries as well. So I was really pleased to be there, but I was up kind of late. Want to give a shout out to Claudia Bester, who's the director of public programs there, as well as the distinguished panel. What a great panel it is. It was, and really worth seeing, because even if you think you know politics, there's so much too, from Kamala Harris to Yvonne Brathwaite Burke, and even Biddy Mason. They went all the way back to Biddy Mason. There is a lot to know about Black women in politics in California.
I love the idea of that. Look, now I feel bad. I was staying up watching Lakers, and I could have. But I mean, what a great topic. You think about some of the figures, just sort of up and down the state, even to like a Barbara Lee and a Maxine Waters, and how they began their journey. It all starts at the local level. Then it percolates up, to the state assembly, and then eventually to Congress, and in Kamala's case, to the White House. So,
yeah. Well, in this case, I should have said the subtitle is "Respect My Crown: The Rise of African American Women in California Politics." It was an official selection of the Pan African Film Festival, and it's doing pretty well. You can track it at respectmycrownmovie.com, and it's definitely worth seeing. It's going to be at the Seattle Black Film Festival if you happen to be out there in Seattle. And so my panel included Areva Martin, LaToya Baldwin-Clark, Pamela Bright Moon, who's the director, and Jacqueline Hamilton, who's a deputy mayor in the office of Karen Bass. So really a great night, and some excellent conversation as well in the discussion. And speaking of the office of Karen Bass, Ed Sanders, last time you were on, we had a conversation about Kristen Crowley, and how I had said that if I were the mayor, I would have fired her long ago. And we were opining on, what might happen. And then I think it was the next day, the mayor pulled the trigger on that one and fired the fire chief, who then appealed the decision. All this has happened since we talked last time. Crowley appeals the decision. The city council votes on it, and she would have needed, I believe, 10 votes to override the mayor's dismissal of her. And actually, she did not get that. She only got 2 votes. Thoughts?
Look, I mean, we were talking about it, and it literally happened later that morning.
Yeah.
It was timely, but listen, I if we're just plain talking, the boldness of the chief to stand up before the city and sort of, advocate for her job back is just an incredible level of boldness to me.
Is it boldness or is it privilege?
Okay, boldness and audacity is kind of where the thank you. Not in a good space. I mean,
right, I got you.
Let's just be really plain forward here. L.A. burned on her watch. Period. In the sentence. And she should have resigned the day after. Frankly, to watch her throw blame to the mayor for her department's failure to catch this, has been just wild to watch, and I get it. The LA Times is is now owned by, a billionaire who we saw in the presidential election is willing to, to go the extra mile for the Republican narrative. And
for the oligarchy.
And it's really clear, right?
Yeah,
like the coverage and the writing on this has one slant, and the slant is designed to hurt Karen Bass in the public forum. The fire chief is responsible for the pre-deployment plan. And, if you read through and comb through all of those articles and just read them with an open eye, you can tell. Even the Times asked the chief about her pre-deployment plan. And, there was some shaky answers that the chief gave. And, the Times tried to pin it down. My point is that it's really clear to me reading those articles that the chief that the pre-deployment plan was not ready for this weekend. And, if they needed resources, they should have asked for the resources. She gave the mayor every bit of confidence that she had it, that it was under control. You and I know the mayor, she wouldn't have gone to Ghana if there was some hint of danger that was known. And the chief gave her all the confidence in the world. So, these warnings come up all the time. But what we're seeing is, the chief rallies, the West Side is mad. They're mad at the mayor. They all think, Ghana, why did you go to Ghana? We all know what that's about, right? She could have been in San Diego and it'd been fine.
Right. Or France or England. Yeah. And also, I think, one of the things that I found least convincing about the fire chief, her testimony in her own defense was like, I didn't refuse to do an after report. I just felt we should combine it with the state. If my boss asks me to do a thing, I don't get to say, well, I'm just going to combine it with what Ed's doing. No, if my boss wants me to do a report, I have to do a report because that's how that goes. I don't get to say, well, Gavin Newsom's doing a report, so why do I have to do a report? I'll just piggyback on his report. No, if you have an assignment, you have to do the assignment. You don't get to say, well, somebody else is doing the assignment, so why should I do the assignment? That's the state. We're the city. There's a county. Each of them have their own reporting responsibilities.
There's after-action reports for every major incident in the fire department. That's not some ridiculous ask. That is a standard ask. Yeah. And and again, literally to stand up there and play politics with that and be silly about the answer. The answer should have been before the council. The mayor asked me to do an after-action report. Here it is. Not. Yeah,
that's pretty much the only answer.
Right.
That's pretty much the only answer. Yeah, it's pretty much. Jump. Exactly. Well, look, you're invited into this conversation if you have an opinion or you want to be the Amen Corner. We love that too. 800-920-1580, 800-920-1580, or hop in the YouTube chat. We are streaming on YouTube at KBLA 1580, and there is a great comment section where people just hang out. So you're invited to that as well. A lot going on around here as usual. We are unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580.
She's reclaiming her time on KBLA Talk 1580. More First Things First with Dominique DiPrima when we come forward.
A new day is on the horizon.
Behind every great moment in history, there's a woman whose story went untold. This March on KBLA Talk 1580, we're bringing those hidden narratives to light. Hear extraordinary stories of women who transformed science, politics, arts, and community. Women you've never heard of, but should know. Celebrating Women's History Month on KBLA Talk 1580, where every story matters.
For a limited time at Verizon, you can get our best price ever. That's 4 lines on unlimited welcome for just $25 a line per month with autopay plus taxes and fees. You'll also get the new iPhone 16 Pro, 4 of them for the entire family when you trade in up to 4 phones from our top brands. That's a new phone for everyone, only on the network you can count on. Verizon. Visit a store today. 20 monthly promo credits applied over 36 months with a new line on unlimited welcome. In times of congestion, unlimited 5G and 4G LTE may be temporarily slower than other traffic. Domestic data roaming at 2G speeds. Additional terms apply for phone offer. See Verizon.com for details.
Our daughter Jessie loves playing detective.
A clue.
But since we discovered she has sensitive skin, we've been playing detective too.
We thought the problem was our puppy.
But it was actually our old detergent.
Aha!
So we switched to Tide Free and Gentle. Tide Free and Gentle provides an excellent Tide clean, and it doesn't leave behind irritating residues like dyes or perfumes, so it's gentle on your skin.
Case closed.
If it's got to be clean, it's got to be Tide Free and Gentle.
Hey, this is Zoe Williams, the voice of reason, and for over 20 years, Parkside Economic Development Corporation has served Leimert Park and surrounding communities, empowering tomorrow's leaders and changing lives. Parkside EDC has awarded over $400,000 in college scholarships while sharing economic principles of the Big Five of money with students and their families. Parkside EDC partners with organizations like the Brotherhood Crusade to assure our youth have the financial acumen to succeed. Parkside EDC provides families and businesses with financial insights, offering free online, on-site, and on-air B-Warp presentations. The Black Wealth Attainment and Retention Programs helps our community acquire, sustain, and pass down legacy wealth. High school seniors can apply for this year's scholarship awards at parksideedc.org. Scholarships will be awarded at Parkside EDC's Gospel/Jazz Brunch on Sunday, April the 27th. For details, tickets, or donations, please visit parksideedc.org. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
Your ancestors' favorite radio station, and your favorite morning show host. Let's get back to Dominique DiPrima right now.
Right now. Ed Sanders is my guest. We were talking about how we looked almost psychic. We were talking about the mayor getting rid of a fire chief who did not only was insubordinate by throwing the mayor under the bus on national television, but failed to do an after-action report, failed to warn the mayor and advise her, as is your role as one of the public safety chiefs. And the way that the LA Times has been so slanted in their reporting on it, particularly that the way they excused the after-action report was funny to me. You can see it in their writing. They're like, well, she said she was going to do a report with the governor. Well, guess what? The governor's not your doggone boss. How about that? But Ed Sanders, the LA Sentinel, broke a story this week about how the Stentorians, which is a black firefighters organization, they've been around forever, was in support of the fire chief's removal. They say that discrimination went rampant under her watch, that she failed to deal with discriminatory hiring practices, firefighter retention, and workplace harassment, and that she didn't do what she needed to do to recruit more firefighters and keep the ones she had, because she just allowed a culture of racism, which has plagued the fire department in the past. And, has been the cause of lawsuits being filed and all kinds of other reports and studies have found persistent. And that's why I found it so laughable when Elon Musk was calling her a DEI hire and complaining about our fire department, which I think is, I can't remember the exact number. It's in the 90s. It's either 92 or 98% white men. And, they did a great job. Good on you for putting out the fires. But the fact that these black firefighters are cheering this woman's dismissal is also quite interesting.
Yeah, it plays into the narrative. Right alongside of the chief was the head of the LA Fire Union, and those were the firefighters that you saw on the T-shirts in there advocating, or cheering the chief on. It's been a moment since I've tracked the Stentorians and sort of their relationship vis-a-vis the labor union. But I do know that the Stentorians have always been focused on recruitment and have been, very straightforward, with any chief, with anybody within the leadership of the fire department around how you recruit, how you make for the experience of black officers. And when you talk about discrimination in the fire department, remember there's a department that had like the dog food scandal, right? Where like lay out how bad the racism was.
Explain the dog food scandal for people who don't remember or never tracked it.
Yeah, if I'm remembering right, and I may have some of the facts, misplaced due to time, but it had something to do with black firefighters within one of the stations, or maybe several of the stations, that the white guys were leaving cans of dog food as sort of a hazing, as a whatever they call it,
instead of I think if I remember correctly, it was instead of their lunch or something, or for black firefighters, and it wasn't a general hazing thing. This was very specific to black officers or black firefighters, right? Yeah.
And while you've got incidents like that, it also calls into question their safety on the job, right? If you're working with a group of people and that is how they're treating you, the question is, if you're in a burning house and something happens, are they coming to get you, right? Like, are they really there for you? And that's why that's a big issue. And so when the Stentorians come forward and are telling you that these issues haven't gotten better, that this chief hasn't addressed them, I hear them and I believe them, and I'm glad that they took the time to do that this week.
Well, it's also worth noting that they're not up there complaining every minute, right? They're still dealing with the dog food issues or whatever, and they're not running out and having a press conference every 12 seconds. But the president of the Stentorians, Robert Hawkins, wrote a letter, and one of the things that he alleges is that during the Palisades fire, some firefighters were using racial slurs against the black firefighters, which is crazy. And he alleges that she fostered this environment. And on top of that, he said she did not even have a plan to deal with their recruitment shortages. So she's going on CNN going, well, we don't have enough firefighters, but she's not doing anything about it. And she's not even stopping problems within the department or trying to stop them. I mean, I'm not saying she could wave a magic wand, but trying to stop things that are making black firefighters not want to stay on the job. So I think that's pretty serious. It's not only about the environment of harassment and racism. It's also about whether or not there is full readiness to deal with the crisis we just had and the ones ahead.
And it's important for us to understand how critical that is, right? The fires, right? And one of the reasons why I was supporting, the mayor removing the chief is that we've got to reset the fire department, because the summer hasn't even hit, right? The wildfires hit in January. We haven't even hit the fire season yet. And so we've got to get this department ready to deal with it. For us in the black community, we have areas that are at risk. The Baldwin Hills sits there and has had fires in the past.
Yeah.
We need the department to be ready, and very particular to our community, we need our black firefighters ready and looking at all of the issues that keep our community safe. Now, I don't want, any part of the city to burn, but
no.
I'm very particular.
No, thank you. But I mean, if you think about it, this last outbreak of fires that spawned the tragedy in the Pacific Palisades and Altadena, there was a small fire at La Cienega and Fairfax, right next to the oil field, right down the street from Baldwin, from the Kenneth Hahn Park. And luckily, our firefighters put it out very quickly. That would have taken out a huge part of South LA. Oil fields catching on fire with those heavy winds, and the entire acreage of Baldwin Hills being with a huge natural park right in the middle of it. It would have been it was a tragedy waiting to happen. I was tracking it in real time on that day, and it was scary to me. I was so grateful to our firefighters, regardless of their ethnicity, for putting that doggone thing out in a timely manner. But Hawkins wrote, I'm going to quote him here, He says, given Chief Kristen Crowley's consistent failures to address these critical issues and others, we agree with the mayor's decision to appoint interim Fire Chief Ronnie Villanueva to lead the LAFD.
Strong comments. And to the point on the coverage, I was surprised that none of the TV cameras had picked up the stentorians down at City Hall. I think there was some footage, but no direct commentary on the points that they raised, and particularly in counter to what you had, which was the LA Fire Union UFLAC out there, cheerleading for the chief.
That's not the narrative. Right now, the mainstream media is in, is in media lynch mob mode. And, we know who the scapegoat is. So other electeds are escaping accountability. The media is piling on, and they are not being fair and balanced, or, even fair. Forget about balance. So that's why we have to do our job. We've got news, traffic, and sports right here, and then we'll continue this conversation only on KBLA Talk 1580.
More of First Things First with Dominique DiPrima when we come forward.
I'm Bree Wood with 4 Things You Should Know with BIN News. The House voted to censure Black Texas Democrat Al Green for disrupting President Trump's address. Green was escorted out after ignoring warnings to sit down. 10 Democrats voted with Republicans to censure Green. Around 69 million people are under wind alerts for the Carolinas to New England as a storm moves off the coast. The storm caused 6 deaths and power outages. Wind gusts of 50 miles per hour are expected in Boston and New York. A judge has ordered the Trump administration to release $2 billion in foreign aid by Monday after attempts to freeze the funds. The judge will then decide on a timeline for the remaining payments. And legendary musician Roy Ayers has died. Known for his hit Everybody Loves the Sunshine, Ayers passed away at the age of 84 after a long illness. His family released a statement revealing he died Tuesday in New York City. Get BIN News on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
Right now, there are young people across the world facing a tough choice: continue their dream of education or drop out to help their family put food on the table. You can help change their future in a single moment. See how far your support can go at unbound.org.
Is this the time? This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
You can now start thinking about the Lakers as a strong contender for the NBA championship. The Lakers overcame a 10-point deficit in the fourth quarter against the New York Knicks to secure a 113-109 win in overtime at Crypto.com. The Lakers capped a 6-0 homestand and extended their winning streak to 8. Another dominant performance from LeBron and Luka Doncic. 32 points, 12 assists, and 8 rebounds for Doncic. LeBron finished with 31 points, 8 assists, and 12 rebounds. Big test coming up. The Lakers begin a 4-game road trip starting Saturday in Boston, followed by stops at Brooklyn, Milwaukee, and Denver. The USC and UCLA women's basketball teams play their first games today in the Big Ten tournament. USC faces Indiana. UCLA takes on Nebraska. The Trojans and Bruins are the top 2 seeds in the tournament in Indianapolis. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
This is the story of the one. As a quality technician in a food processing center, she knows that making the right call is the best way to avoid a recall. That's why she trusts Grainger's world-class supply chain to deliver the high-quality supplies she needs to help keep her production line, her equipment, and her customers happy and healthy. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
You still thinking job change in the new year?
Yeah, I need something that's in high demand and more stable in this economy.
IT?
Yeah, cybersecurity, maybe even AI.
That's what I did.
Really? How?
Went to My Computer Career. You don't need any prior experience, and you could start your new career in a matter of months. A lot of IT pros go to school there, too, to level up.
Sweet. Are classes online or on campus?
Both.
Wow, I'll check it out. Thanks.
Make this your year. Take the free career evaluation now at mycomputercareer.edu. Financial aid is available for qualifications.
Yeah, yo, come on. Pick up the drum.
At KBLA Talk 1580, we fight the power every day.
Yeah, gotta give us what we want. Gotta give us what we need. Hey!
I listen to KBLA and I love the commercials. I know what the commercials mean. I also, if I'm looking and trying to figure something out, I need something to talk to me that might hit me. And it happens on TV because, every time they show a sporting event, they got the pharmaceutical companies back to back to back telling people how to fix the sickness on the same stuff that they sell them. So we get it.
Yep, we get it too, Chuck D. And that's why at KBLA Talk 1580, we don't black down.
Drop it! Our freedom of speech is freedom of death. We got to fight the powers that be. Fight the power! Fight the power!
There's new reaction following the Trump administration's sweeping efforts to cut the federal workforce.
Fired but not forgotten. The Testimony Project. Bearing witness, breaking silence, building community. KBLA Talk 1580 is committed to amplifying the voices of black federal workers impacted by the mass firings. Rooted in the black tradition of testimony, this initiative ensures that those who served us are not erased from history. Through firsthand accounts, investigative storytelling, and community-driven dialogue, we intend to expose injustice, preserve truth, and demand accountability. If you or someone you know has been forced out of federal employment due to the mass firings, please contact us at info@smileyAudiomedia.com or via the open mic feature on the KBLA 1580 app. We want to hear from you and share your story. KBLA Talk 1580, we've got your black.
A new day is on the horizon. Behind every great moment in history, there's a woman whose story went untold. This March on KBLA Talk 1580, we're bringing those hidden narratives to light. Hear extraordinary stories of women who transformed science, politics, arts, and community. Women you've never heard of, but should know. Celebrating Women's History Month on KBLA Talk 1580, where every story matters.
Thanks for waking up with Dominique DiPrima on KBLA Talk 1580.
I do thank you. I'm actually very grateful. I love my job. I love you guys. I even love you, Ed, even though I like to fight with you. Ed Sanders is here. We're not fighting today, though. We're breaking down what happened with the dismissal, which, I thought was also another example of the way our mayor is way more patient than I am. Somebody in the chat said, as he calls himself Mad Dog Media TV, seems to be consistently pretty conservative, says that he saw one of the stentorians talking during the comments before the city council. But what we were discussing was the way that narrative was not really included in the mainstream media and how the Sentinel really broke the story about that letter and the sentiments of the black workers in that super critical city department.
Yeah, that's right. And a lot of this is this debate is playing out in the media, on social media, right? And that's how people's opinions are being influenced. And it sounds like, the viewer Mad Dog and I and probably a select few were actually watching the hearing.
The whole hearing, yeah, right.
You had to watch the public comments, and you had to sort of sift through there's public comments at City Council is a whole nother conversation.
It's funny, they're talking about that in the chat, and actually Mad Dog said LA routinely has the most disrespectful public comment display I've ever seen in any city council meeting. Bad news for any young person interested in city government. Well, except for some of that cussing and carrying on is the young people who are interested in city government.
Yeah. Yeah, the freedom of speech thing, it's on full display there at that time what the sad side about it is when you have some legitimate comments and legitimate points to make, it's buried under, just an inordinate amount of trash. And so therein is the problem with the Centurion's remarks prior to council, right? It was buried under all of that. They were available for press and made themselves, available for interviews. It's on the outlet to cover that, right? And in this case, we're looking at the LA Times, being the sort of the largest newspaper in the region, not covering that storyline.
The paper of record. Yeah. Let's go to Ira, one of our Republican friends, calling from Los Angeles. Good morning, Ira.
Good morning, Dominique. Thank you for having me. I just wanted to say on the fire chief situation, I think that it's sad that this whole situation is blown up. Karen Bass, I believe, is a one administration mayor. I wanted to warn black ladies to make sure to be ready for when she's thrown out, because the war clouds are gathering on the horizon against her. This whole situation with the fire chief is just procedural. I talked with a colleague of mine who's a labor attorney, and she's going to file a lawsuit down the line, and just one of the steps she has to take in order to ensure that lawsuit goes through for her. So she'll prevail in the end. But bigger problems are on the horizon for
Who
Karen.
will prevail
Really
in the end?
gotta
You're
get
talking
things
about
together.
Mayor Bass will prevail, or the chief?
The chief. She's going to win in the lawsuit.
She's going to win money. She won't get her job. She's still with the department because she has civil service protection. Dr. Melina Abdullah was talking about precisely what you're saying, Ira, last week, I think, saying this is meant to beef up her settlement. And clearly, you're also correct, although I'm pretty sure we disagree on the outcome, that a recall effort is underway, backed by big money. And backed by mostly Republicans. I mean, I haven't seen any Dems backing this so far.
The Democrats they're impotent. I mean, their display the other night in Washington is just disgraceful. They allowed a 70-year-old man to stand up by himself. They did nothing whatsoever to back this gentleman up, and they let him take the fall. And like Dr. West said, they sat there with a bunch of cards or something holding up like Girl Scouts. It's embarrassing to be a black person in American politics in these days and times.
I'm not embarrassed. I'm not embarrassed at all. I mean, I am considering leaving the party, but I thought that Al, like I know him, Congressman Green, who's actually 77, I believe, was exemplary. Ed, your thoughts on what Ira's saying?
No, I mean, I get the sentiment. He is right. War cloud, the drumbeat and the war against us is in high gear. But these are the times that, our community has always responded. And, I do think that the pushback is coming. And once, I understand that the papers for the recall have been filed, but pulling papers and gathering the signatures are two totally separate things. But by chance that they actually do get it, the campaign that I think that this mayor puts forward, I don't believe that she's a one-term mayor just yet, right? I think there's a long way to go on this thing. There's a lot of information about the fires that have everybody so upset, and listening to the show right ahead. The issues weren't with the mayor. The issues on these fires were with the fire chief.
But clearly, she's been scapegoated, just like Ira's scapegoating, like the papers are scapegoating her, and the television, and she's been under attack with the national press. She's getting death threats. Elon Musk is tweeting about her. I mean, it's terrible. But to your point, Ed, a lot can happen in 6 months. And, we have a very competent mayor. I wouldn't, there's no one I'd rather have. She's a health professional. She's a community organizer. She's actually an experienced politician, but not a lifetime politician. She's functioned successfully at the city, state, and federal level. I mean, you couldn't have a better person to lead us through this. She's actually good at bipartisanship, if there is such a thing. And so, I think that her leadership skills still have time to shine, but clearly she's under a withering attack. This woman, Nicole Shanahan, the former Google, the ex-wife of the former head of Google, I believe she is, who put a lot of money into the RFK, Robert Kennedy's campaign. She's a billionaire. She's one of the main backers of this recall. It's true, there's a difference between filing a recall and getting the signatures. But when you've got a bunch of billionaires, I mean, it's the Republicans that are fronting this thing. But you know that Elon and Rick Caruso are sliding dollars in the back door. Doesn't that make it a lot easier to collect those signatures?
Yes and no, but no. They
explain
have
the no.
Recalls
Explain the no.
I mean, they've launched recall efforts in the past that have been well funded. We've seen billionaire candidates run for governor. We've seen billionaire candidates run for mayor. Money's an important part of politics, but it's not the end all be all. You do have to get out there and do the work, and so yes, the mayor is under a withering attack, and it feels like that people out there are really, really upset. But she just finished beating Rick Caruso, a billionaire, in the race for the mayor's seat. And
who spent like $100 million?
Right. Once marshaling the resources, once she has her campaign apparatus up and can get her side of it out. I think that's the point that we've been making this whole time, is that the sort of the unbiased coverage is slanting the opinions of people right now. And once you have a counter narrative, again, I don't look objectively. If I thought the mayor was at fault on this, I would say, yeah, sure, she shouldn't have gone to Ghana. The fire chief should have been prepared for this. That is really, really clear to me. And the gamesmanship that the fire chief and the fire department have been playing, the more people hear about it, the more people understand it. I think most of the city of LA will come to understand that. What Karen and what the mayor needs to do is just be more forceful in demanding the accountability on that, right?
Yeah. And telling her story.
And she's doing the work, right? Like the recovery and the rebuild.
She always does the work. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the other thing is that had we had a fire department that was functioning the way it should have, it wouldn't matter that the mayor was in Ghana, because the mayor, they have phones in Ghana, they have satellite phones, they have FaceTime, they have internet. Like, I've been there 3 times, and I can tell you that being in Ghana does not mean you cannot be in touch with the heads of all of your departments. The sheriff made it very clear that the mayor never lost touch with them. And so, although she said she regretted going and wouldn't have gone had she been properly warned by the fire chief, had that department been functioning properly and had, things been placed where they were supposed to be placed, then it wouldn't have been an issue. Also, I think, had she been in England.
Dominique, let me bring that home. The department functioning properly. See, a lot has been made about the water and the fire hydrants, right? You get this report this week about the number of damaged fire hydrants that are within the city. The Department of Water and Power is supposed to fix them, but the fire department is supposed to let DWP know exactly where they are and how many they are. They submitted one report, back at the end of last year that didn't have any fire hydrants that needed to be reported. And then after the fires in February, there comes this list, and it's like, longer than you can believe. And you just don't get that many fire hydrants that need to be fixed within a couple weeks. That's part of it. When you start talking about the reservoir, that fire department should have known that the reservoir was empty, and that pre-deployment plan should have accounted for that, right? Like, how many reservoirs across the city were empty during, what could have been an incredibly dangerous fire fight? You would account for that. You would have more trucks in the region and more personnel in the region because the reservoir is down. And I refuse to believe that the fire department didn't know.
Yeah,
right? Like,
and if they didn't know, they should have known. If they didn't know, they should have known. That's part of their job. Fire, water goes together. You're supposed to be in contact with the Department of Water and Power. Not only that, Ed, like, if while you were busy not letting the mayor know that we could be in for a huge fire department disaster, you could have at least been going, hey, can y'all get this reservoir back up? Like, what can we do here? There should be some urgent communication going on with the DWP if you're on top of your job.
And quite frankly, let me spread a lot of the blame around. You know that I worked as a chief deputy in a council office. the council office in that region should have known that the reservoir was down and that, the fire department needed it back up for public safety reasons.
Right.
It should have been, and this is Tracy Park's district, right? And so you see the amount of vitriol that she's throwing around at the mayor. I look at her and I say, well, look, your team should have actually been all over this conversation, working with the fire department and DWP to get the reservoir back online, and certainly in the pre-deployment that it was accounted for.
Right.
And,
that's a good point,
those
Ed.
are some big failures.
Yeah.
Big failures.
And so why is Tracy Park getting a pass? Why is Lindsay Horvath getting a pass? Why is Catherine Barger getting a pass? Is the mayor everybody's mama? She's not the mayor of Malibu. She's not the mayor of Altadena, although she's tried to help in those scenarios. So part of what's happening is the media, and part of it is ignorance. Like when Khloe Kardashian gets up and says, "Recall Karen Bass. She let Malibu burn." Look, you dumb lady.
Right.
Self-censorship. Right. You dumb lady who makes great jeans. Look, you idiot who doesn't follow politics but decides to jump on and tell your millions of Twitter or IG followers misinformation. She's not even over that. Just like Mel Gibson was last week over in Altadena, blaming Karen Bass for the response in Altadena. Why are these other folks, and particularly to your point, Tracy Park, because honestly, if anyone was supposed to be crying to the DWP that reservoir was empty, given the fire warnings, it would have been Park, right, along with the fire chief.
No, without a doubt. I mean, it would have been topic one in any meeting with the fire department, right? The readiness of the department to fight wildfires is the number one priority. Her district is full of wild brush, so it should have been topic one. I assume that it was. I can't assume that because, very clearly there weren't any actions taken. And so, there's a lot to unpack. And certainly as the final report comes out, I hope these elements are in there. But even if they're not in there, this is where we as citizens got to step back and look at what's being reported out, what's being said, and pull the leaves back and figure that, look for the real truth there. The fire department is going to have its stamp. I don't know how critical of its own department it'll be, right? I don't know what the report is going to say that the state is commissioned. The state has a lot of culpability in this. We've had wildfires left and right the last decade. And, we just seem to be withering them, right? Like we're under attack and assault from wildfires every year. I know we put some money together for some grants, but we've got to measure the effectiveness of that. There are a lot of things that the state, this county, and the cities within the state of California have got to do to prepare for wildfires.
Yep.
Because they're not stopping, right? Like this all goes back to climate change and the water shortage and the lack of rain in the western United States. It's going to continue to be a part of our lives for the next decade and two.
Ed Sanders is with me. You're invited in. I'm Dominique DiPrima, and you're listening to KBLA Talk 1580.
A safe place to go loud. A great place for progressive politics. KBLA Talk 1580.
Looking for a purposeful and passionate way to make a difference in your community? Volunteer with our Senior Medicare Patrol and help prevent Medicare fraud. S&P volunteers work in their community educating peers about healthcare fraud and how to prevent and detect it. Free training starts soon. Check us out online or at an S&P open house near you. We're on a mission to stop fraud. Join our team. You make a difference. Visit caspvolunteer.org. Protect yourself from Medicare card scams. Scammers may call, email, or even knock on your door claiming they need your Medicare info, asking for money or threatening to cancel your benefits. Don't fall for it. It's a scam. Remember, Medicare doesn't need to verify your information. They already have it. Medicare won't charge you for a new card and will never threaten to cancel benefits. Check your Medicare statements for suspicious charges and report scams to the California Senior Medicare Patrol at 1-855-613-7080. We're here to help.
Lena Bloom for the Bail Project.
Imagine you're stuck in a jail cell and you can't afford bail, and someone offers you a way out. Just plead guilty, and you can go home and kiss your kids goodnight. What do you do? What thousands have. You plead guilty whether you are or not. Cash bail makes poverty a crime. That's why the Bail Project helps those who can't afford it while fighting to end cash bail. Because freedom should be free.
Brought to you by the Ad Council.
Who cares about the black community in Altadena? We do. On Saturday, March 8th at 10 a.m., it's the premiere of Conversation Live, Altadena Rising with James Farr. This new weekly show will explore the deep roots and resilience of Altadena's black community as we track its recovery and reimagine its future. From relief efforts to rebuilding, we're raising up voices, stories, and solutions to build back Black Altadena better and stronger than ever. It's Conversation Live, Altadena Rising with James Farr, every Saturday at 10 a.m. beginning Saturday, March 8th, with an encore presentation, Sundays at noon.
James Farr, the man who is the voice for Black Los Angeles.
At KBLA Talk 1580, we've got your black. Find a righteous rage, and don't be afraid to say what you see. We're KBLA Talk 1580.
Yes, we are. Ed Sanders is with me, and we've been unpacking the situation with the kind of aftercare of the fires here in LA County, which is, a topic we need to stay on. We will stay on because it's very, very crucial that we track this and not just drop it and go to the topic of the week. There's a recall effort against the governor, too. I don't see it going anywhere. I think this would be his third or fourth recall election that he has endured if it was to gather signatures. I don't see that one going anywhere. Do you?
No, and it's funny, even as you say it, I had forgotten that papers had been pulled in that case. I don't think it has much chance of actually getting to the ballot.
He's also saying that he wants to spend $125 million in state dollars to help homeowners whose homes were destroyed in mortgage relief by the natural disasters to help keep them out of foreclosure. He's declared a state of emergency statewide. I mean, I kind of think that goes without saying when you have the kind of huge economic and personal losses that we have seen. But you said he also is not getting, is not being held accountable enough. What do you mean by that?
Well, I mean, look, I look at the number of wildfires, right? And we've seen wildfires ravage San Diego County. We've seen them, the entire city up north, where Paradise burned. I think, 110, 111 people perished in that fire.
Yeah.
This is a major issue, and it didn't take the Palisades to burn before, we see it in his budget. It was one of the primary, elements right up front in the budget. He needed money dedicated for wildfire prevention. Very clearly we as a state, and in this case, the governor put that forward, right? Like, the state of California doesn't have endless money, but it was a significant portion of the budget. We as a community have to also understand we're going to have to devote more resources to wildfire prevention throughout, right? And, the rebuilding of the Palisades is going to take resources away from things that we as a community need, right? Whether we're talking about education or public safety or transportation, whatever, the rebuilding effort in the Palisades is going to be an expensive one. The rebuilding effort in Altadena is going to be an expensive one. And, we've got Trump in the White House, and he, I don't know that he's going to put money towards California, frankly. And so there's a lot of questions to sort of hammer out. I do think that people are moving really, really quick. And obviously there's people in pain, so you have to move quick in that effort. But the concept around what is the final rebuild or what is the ultimate plan or the best course of action, needs to be laid out so that everyone understands, and we could weigh in, because truth be told, our resources are being impacted by whatever the final recovery plan looks like.
Yeah. Well, I think those are all points worth tracking. Today in the LA Times, there's an article where Gavin Newsom talks about trans athletes and saying that in a podcast that it's with Charlie Kirk. Why is he even talking to Charlie Kirk? That he says it's deeply unfair for trans athletes to participate in women's sports. Why is that a top of mind issue for the governor? Why is he going on Charlie Kirk? For me, nothing says I'm running for president more than attacking trans athletes in this climate on the Charlie Kirk podcast.
Yes, and look, we've had conversations about the party and the direction the party's moving in. What was really clear is that in the last election, there are some issues that the right seized upon, where, even to the base of the Democratic Party, the position doesn't make sense. And, it's not that it's a noble position. It's just a position that doesn't truly make sense.
And right? That affects under 1% of the population. So it really amounts to just an attack on a particular population and imaging.
No, not hardly.
Position.
It's not 1% of the population, because it's anybody that is, parent to a daughter.
Yeah, that's
and,
true. Their families.
The
yeah,
frame
that's true.
is that, and I'm just speaking for myself. I am the father of a daughter that plays sports.
Yeah.
And, I think there is a conversation to be had about where athletes play, right?
Right.
But I do think there is something inherently unfair about that. And I wouldn't, you know what I mean? And I'm one of the more progressive conservatives.
It's time for news, traffic, and sports. So we're going to have to do a whole show on that. I'll look forward to it, Ed. But as usual, thank you so much for joining. We got to do that show. Girl Dad. Thank you so much for waking up with me after your Lakers binge last night.
Thanks for having me on.
News, traffic, and sports. And then it's time for Freedman Friday on KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Bree Wood with 4 Things You Should Know with BIN News. The House voted to censure Black Texas Democrat Al Green for disrupting President Trump's address. Green was escorted out after ignoring warnings to sit down. 10 Democrats voted with Republicans to censure Green. Around 69 million people are under wind alerts for the Carolinas to New England as a storm